You must love podcasts if you're listening to this. Do you want to start your own one or you already have one? Then follow Smarter Podcasting to get expert advice from me, Niall Mackay, the podcast guy. Since 2019, we've worked with over 40 podcasters, produced over 700 episodes, and helped many podcasts get to the top of the Apple Podcast charts. And right now, I'm offering you a professional edit for just $27. Click the link in the show notes.
I kind of traveled around Southeast Asia, came to Vietnam, and just had this brilliant idea of how would it be I would really live here. I grew up with different cultures, one at home, which was Vietnamese, and one outside of home in school. My social surrounding was very Swiss, on the other hand.
Welcome to another episode of a Vietnam podcast. I'm your host, Niall Mackay. I came to Vietnam in 2015 for a vacation, fell in love with the place, went back to New Zealand, couldn't stop eating Vietnamese food, Vietnamese coffee, and nearly even bought a ba 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 for $9 New Zealand, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because it's such a terrible beer. My wife and I decided we were going to come back to Vietnam, and we did that in 2016. We were only going to be here for 6 weeks, and 8 years later, we are still here, which shows you how much we love the place. I started this podcast in 2019 as a hobby, and I met some incredible people along the way. I wanted to share stories of people connected to Vietnam. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be talking to somebody that I met back in 2021. They were on season 5 of a Vietnam podcast. They moved to Vietnam in 2019, and they came back to Vietnam to discover their roots and then left Vietnam mid-pandemic in 2021. And I'm excited to hear how life has been since then. So welcome back to a Vietnam podcast, Nhi Mai.
Hello. Thank you so much for the very nice introduction. I'm very happy to be back on your podcast. It's crazy how fast time flew by.
Crazy, right? And I forgot to mention I was also on your channel. So you had your own channel now on Nhi. And it's just reminded me that we had a whole big discussion, which we're not going to discuss again, about how to say your name. But now on Nhi, then you interviewed me on your channel, the Now on Nhi channel, in the Old Ladies Drinkery, which is RIP, which is another location that didn't survive COVID, like many businesses. Obviously many people as well, and lots of people left Vietnam as well. So we last spoke on a Vietnam podcast in March 2021, and then you left not long after that. So tell me a little bit about why you left. Tell me very briefly, remind me, why did you come to Vietnam again, and why did you leave?
So I came to Vietnam as a tourist. I think a bit similar as to your story. I didn't really plan on staying there, working there, and really, live life in Vietnam. Back then, I quit my job in Switzerland and I kind of traveled around Southeast Asia, came to Vietnam, and just had this brilliant idea of, what about, or how would it be I would really live here? And I had many questions in regards of, how would my life be if I would have been, if I was born in Vietnam, and all these kind of questions. So I think one thing led to another. And then once I found a job, I basically decided to take the chance and maybe stay there for 2 years for some experience, for, just to experience life there, not only career-wise, but also, life and meeting people, and just in general very curious about what's going to happen next. And then, so I gave myself 2 years, but then ended up staying 3 years. I think the pandemic made my stay in Vietnam a little longer than expected because it was really uncertain. Also, Switzerland back then was not really clear how it's gonna be in the future, and all these kind of uncertainty. So yeah, it made me stay in Vietnam a bit longer. But then eventually I decided to move back because one, like my contract ran out in Vietnam. So I decided, okay, so it's a good time to come back. But also I never really intended to stay very long. So I think it was good timing. Yeah. I think that's the main reason.
And we talked about it before, and I found it so interesting because I talked to many people about it on the podcast about being either like a third culture kid. But did you describe yourself as that?
I would say so, yes.
And remind me, what is a third culture kid?
Well, I'm not sure about like the correct description or the definition of it, but I would say that my parents are immigrants. I was born and I grew up in a foreign country, meaning not in Vietnam. So I guess I grew up with different cultures. One at home, which was Vietnamese, and one outside of home in school. My social surrounding was very Swiss, on the other hand. So I think that was also like the reason why I wanted to discover my roots. And yeah.
I remember I found it just so interesting, as I mentioned, talking about something that's so different to my life. I'm from Scotland, my family's from Scotland. I only know one culture. And then I found it really, really interesting talking to people like yourself who have experienced just such a different experience growing up. I remember you talking about your lunch bag being packed with, maybe was it bun bao or?
It was bun bao, yes.
It was bun bao, yeah. That's a pretty good memory after 3 years. Your lunch bag being packed with bun bao, and then the other kids finding that weird, like, why do you have this different food?
The brain, someone said, like, are you eating a brain? Like, no.
Let's be honest, inside of a bun bao does kind of look like a brain.
It does kind of, yeah.
So you wanted to come back to Vietnam essentially to discover your roots, right? Was your first reason to come back. Did you feel that you did that?
I think I did to a certain point. I mean, I knew the culture before. I was in Vietnam before. I've been there for on holidays with my mom. I have extended family there, so I did know Vietnam to a certain extent, but I didn't really know like a big part of it. And I realized it while I was there, because in the beginning I thought, oh my God, I'm like the only crazy person that is kind of going back to their parents' country. Like also had some guilt feelings in regards to, my parents left the country for a reason, and I'm so privileged in Switzerland. I have all these kind of things and all these opportunities. Why am I moving back? And I think a lot of also local friends had the same, question. Yeah, I think I did connect with the country. I traveled a lot in Vietnam. I saw many different cities and food, which I wouldn't have the chance to in Switzerland. But also I have to say, I discovered the bubble as well, of Viet Kius such as myself. Also how, young people are living in Vietnam, what their interests are, music, pop culture, all these kind of things. I think I did, discover a lot of things that I wouldn't have known if I would have stayed in Switzerland.
Well, I know you'd been here on holiday before, like you mentioned, but what perceptions did you have of Vietnam before you came, and how many of them were confirmed and how many of them didn't turn out to be true?
So, I mean, the only information that I got about Vietnam is through my parents. And so mostly it's dangerous. I mean, I didn't really know about the nightlife, the District 1 and District 3 and District 2s and whatnot. So my perception was really like, it went to, how to say, my grandma had a garden, a big garden, or still has a big garden. And so that was my area that I knew of Vietnam. And that's how I imagined Vietnam to be. But it wasn't that at all. So I think many people were concerned, like my mom included, obviously, that I would make the step, but I was, and I'm still very stubborn, and I want to try things against all odds. I just want to find out. So, yeah, I'm glad I did.
And so what were some of the things that surprised you when you moved here? It's really interesting that you say that, because I'm doing a series of podcasts right now on my own, which I've never done before in the whole of a Vietnam podcast, and trying to share a bit more of my perspective, because I realized even over 10 seasons now, if you listen to every episode, you get to know me a bit, obviously, but I do really make a conscious effort to try and give, to put a number on it, like 75% time to the guest, because I want to hear what they have to say, and I think nobody wants to listen to me. But now I've been here for so long, which when I wasn't here that long when I started the podcast, now I want to share a bit more about what life is actually like here for me, especially being here for 8 years. And what I've been talking about recently is similar to what you're saying, that people have a perception of Vietnam. So what I say is, and I'm being a bit, stereotypical, but I say people have a perception of buffaloes, rice paddies, and lanterns, right? And then, but for you, and I've heard this from other children of immigrants who left Vietnam, that their parents thought it was dangerous, that you can't go back, that there's trouble on every corner. And then you come here in Vietnam, Saigon anyways, it's super safe as far as I can see. I'm sure there's obviously pockets of danger and things like that, but generally very, very safe. But what I'm trying to get across in these podcasts that I've been doing is talking about the cocktail bars that we go to, the craft beer. I'm going to talk about the different food places, because I want to do something a little bit different. Everyone does about street food, and I'm going to do an episode soon about my favorite street foods just because I have them. But what I want to show to people is there is a perception of Vietnam from some people who have left Vietnam that when you come here, it's really, really not true. And I guess for you, your perception was, I'm going to stay in this little garden and be safe. So what were the biggest surprises that when you got here and you left that garden and you actually started to explore Vietnam? And then I also want to know, what did your parents say when you told them?
So it's interesting, as you said, like the bar culture or club culture, night out, it's super different than what I have like here in Switzerland. But that surprised me a lot, that the options, and you can have whatever, as you said, you can have street food if you want, you can have fancy food from all kinds of cuisine. So it's very versatile, and it's something there for everyone. And I think that surprised me as well. But now I feel like with Instagram, with all the social media, with all the reels, I get like recommendations every day on Instagram. I'm like, oh, this is new, so I think nowadays it's maybe easier to imagine how life in Vietnam could be. Whereas before, when there was no Instagram, I just grew up like knowing what my parents told me, so that was it. But now I think you can really do your own research, and that's super nice. I still miss like all the speakeasy bars and all these restaurants.
There's even more of them now.
Yes, even more, but also a lot of change, and it changes so fast. As you mentioned in the beginning, some didn't make it, but also a lot of them, a lot of new ones are coming. So it's always very exciting, and it's never the same. So, yeah.
Definitely think Vietnam has to be one of the most exciting countries to be in the world. For many reasons. Obviously, the UK, US, Australia have their own problems. Cost of living crisis, inflation, not just those countries, other countries. Japan has like an aging population. They don't have enough young people. And every country has different issues. Obviously, Vietnam has issues as well. But being here right now, I feel really lucky. It just feels like a really exciting time. Every day there's a new restaurant. And I've been saying that for years now, every day there's a new coffee shop, there's a new restaurant, there's a new bar, there's a new bridge. Like today I was driving along the canal, hadn't been that way in a long time, and there was a new footbridge over the canal. Now, that seems so lame, but you get excited about things like this in Vietnam. I remember they built a sidewalk near where we lived in Tao Dien, and my wife and I were like, oh my God, they built a sidewalk. Let's go for a walk. And we were like, this is ridiculous. We are excited about a sidewalk. But Vietnam obviously had a war, but that was a long time ago, but it did affect, and it had a knock-on effect, and the economic policies had a long-term effect. So it is 20, 30 years behind most countries. So being here right now, though, and watching it catch up so quickly is just really, really exciting. So going back to my original question, what did your parents say when you came here and then you were like, oh, it's not violent at all. It's super fun. There's nightclubs, there's bars, there's restaurants, there's all these things. Like, well, what did you tell them and what did they say? I wanted to share with you about one of my favorite affiliate partners, and that is Fiverr. I've been using Fiverr for years for everything from ordering YouTube thumbnails to keyword research, writing podcast articles, even to Canva designs and thumbnails and more. So whether you're a budding entrepreneur, a podcaster, or anyone in between, Fiverr has got you covered. It really is the go-to platform if you want to find freelancers offering a massive range of services to help you on any project. Maybe you need a stunning new logo or just a short animation, whatever you need, you can find it on Fiverr. What I love the most is how easy Fiverr makes it to connect with talented freelancers from around the world, all at prices that will fit whatever your budget is. Plus, with Fiverr's secure payment system, you can trust that your transactions are safe and secure. No dodgy people you meet on Facebook groups that disappear with your money and never give you what you want. What, that's only happened to me? As an affiliate partner, I will get a small commission if you use the link and at no extra cost to you. As an affiliate partner, I will get a small commission if you click my link and you buy something, all at no extra cost to you. And best of all, you will be directly supporting the making of this podcast that you're listening to for free, but it is not free to make. So why wait? Head over to somewhere that you've probably never been before. It's called the show notes. So whatever app you're listening in, if it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything at all, head to the show notes, click on my special link, and then you can browse thousands of gigs ready to help you with your next project.
I mean, at first they weren't happy at all. They weren't unhappy about it. I think they were glad that I want to know more, but I think they were more worried because it's very different from how I grew up and how the work environment is here. And I mean, language-wise, it's very okay for me, but still, like, if you have to live in a country that is, you know, like, it's Vietnamese and you have to deal with it, then, I mean, they had like their worries, but I kind of had to prove to them, it was my motivation to prove to them that everything's all right. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm always, you know, updating them with pictures, with all the nice restaurants and the new friends that I made, and like friends that are from Germany and France, and like, don't worry about it. I'm not the only one out here. I found a community. So I think these kind of things, and I mean, eventually they had to accept it. And now it's like my mom comes to me for, you know, recommendations, like, oh, like next week I'm going to Vietnam, like what area should I, you know, like visit, what's there to see. And then I think through me, especially my mom, realized that, oh, okay, it's not the Saigon that I knew. It's like really different, like how Nhi's experiencing it. So I think maybe that also motivates her to explore her own city in a way more. Yes.
That's really cool. That's awesome. So talk me through then the decision to leave Vietnam because it was really at the height of the pandemic here in Vietnam. So 2020, the pandemic started, the world went on fire, but then Vietnam was really insulated, closed the borders right away, had an amazing system. And so for 2020, I remember living in paradise. I felt guilty. I remember going on holiday to basically a 5-star resort because it was cheap enough that you could go. I mean, you'd never be able to afford to go there normally. I mean, you could, it's not that expensive, but it was on a massive discount. So we went to a 5-star resort and I didn't post one picture on social media because I knew back in the US, things were going really, really badly. The UK was really bad. And I was like, I don't want to post pictures of me going out to like this 5-star beautiful resort when all my friends and family around the world are having a terrible, terrible time. Then fast forward, 2021 came, we had the Omicron variant. Vietnam hadn't got the vaccine yet for various reasons. And then that just spread like wildfire. And then by 2021, in like late May, early June, we started going into our own lockdown, which we'd never really had a lockdown. We did a really small ones, but never really had a big one. But we started going into a stricter and stricter lockdown up until, I think, the end of August, beginning of September, or the end of September, beginning of October. I can't remember right now. So life in Vietnam got really, really difficult in 2021. So how did that affect you, and how did that affect your decision to leave and go home?
I had the same feeling about, beginning of pandemic when Vietnam was still okay-ish. Me too. Like we were going out, like we were able to travel within the country and doing all these kind of things. And my friends in Europe were already in lockdown. So definitely enjoyed that time. And then also lockdown came and really, I kind of liked it, like to have this calmness for once in such a busy city. And also the air was so clear. I don't know if you have realized it, but, like things started to change and slow down a bit. And I kind of like that.
Enjoy it, because we couldn't leave the house. I remember just looking out the
on
window,
the balcony.
being like, look at those blue skies. I'm excited to tell you that air quality lately has been incredible. Like yesterday morning, I looked up, it was green. We were just talking about it. I don't know if more people using electric bikes. Like we got an electric bike. There's more electric cars on the road. Maybe construction has slowed down because they've built a lot of things already. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But for the last few months now, I can remember mostly every day is really, really nice out. Like our window looks out quite far and I'm like, I can see D7 from here. This is incredible, when normally it's like super polluted. So we do have bad pollution days sometimes, but it does seem to have gotten better. But sorry to interrupt. So go back. So lockdown, fresh air.
Lockdown, fresh air, all good. But I was planning to move back to Switzerland for a longer period already. So as I said, like this whole COVID situation kind of extended this decision. And at one point also, the vaccine that you have mentioned, I was not able to get vaccinated. And so that was also a reason why I thought, okay, maybe it's time to go home. I didn't know then that it's going to be like go back home for good. But yeah, it was. So I came back and I thought, okay, maybe it's time to move back and to kind of settle down back in Switzerland. So that was an ongoing process. It was not really like a day where I decided, okay, now I want to move back. Let's pack everything and go. But it kind of slowly, in the process, kind of turned into moving back for good.
And how did that feel then? Or you thought, this isn't the end, I might be back?
I don't really know. I think there were a lot of different factors. I think I realized when I arrived in Switzerland, I was like, oh, everything is so organized. Like I can just sign up for my vaccine like same day, and having my family close and also my friends, and just I'm a very visual person. So whenever same as when I moved to Vietnam, I didn't plan it. I had to be there and kind of take it in for a minute, and then I was like, okay, let's try. And so it's the same as for when I moved back to Switzerland. So everything is very spontaneous and very flexible. So yeah.
Well, culture shock is obviously a massive thing, especially coming to Vietnam. One of the biggest culture shocks that you can get when you come here, because it is so energetic, to put it in a positive spin. It's just a very energetic place, lots of things going on. Frenetic is another good word. So did you have reverse culture shock then going back to Switzerland?
Not really. No, I don't think I've been away for long enough to really get a reverse culture shock. The difference was big, and I had to adjust back to this life. So I think maybe that was a little difficult at first, but I mean, it's nothing new. So I knew all of this before. So it worked quite well. I just enjoyed the silence sometimes. Like, it's so nice. Everything is so, like so slow. Like, there are like 5 coffee shops that I really like, and they've been there for like, I don't know how many years. Nothing changed. So sometimes that's good too.
I love the silence as well when I go back to Scotland, go back to my parents' house, and at night time, and it's so nice. Yeah, I just saw an Instagram reel this week about how in Germany, apparently it's still really like paper-based. Like there's a really funny girl. I'll need to find out her name. She's Vietnamese, but she lives in Germany with her German partner, and she makes these really funny reels about adjusting to life in Germany as a Vietnamese person. And so all these things that, I guess if you've been to Germany, I know you're not from Germany, but you're very close and location-wise and share a language. You speak German as well, don't you?
Yeah, yes.
So this reel just made me laugh because I didn't realize. So Germany, is this true? And is it true for Switzerland? I don't know, but like they don't even have apps for things, and everything's paper-based, and making appointments can be such a nightmare. And I was like, wait, I thought Germany was like one of the countries leading the pack in the world, like really ahead of times. And then you realize like Vietnam is behind on a lot of things, but then you're like, oh no, Vietnam's actually like way far ahead.
I think I know what reel you're talking about. I think I saw it too. I follow this girl as well. It's really funny.
Let me get her name. AJ. What's the name of that German girl? Do you know it?
I think it's Thuy Minh, some
Vietnamese girl that lives in Germany. The real what? Yuan.
Yuan, yes. Yuan.
I'm going to call this. All right, I'm going to pretend that I remembered. Oh yeah, it's Yuan something, right?
Right.
I'll put a link maybe in the show notes. Go check her out, but she's really, really funny.
So she's really funny. And I think it's true to a certain extent. I mean, I remember when I lived in Vietnam, I had a mailbox, but it was always empty. Like, except for like some electricity bill, maybe once in a while. That was it. Like, I never really, like looked at my mailbox. But now you have to check your mailbox every day because like, like some information is incoming, some invoices. I mean, like it's a lot of paper, and advertisement, magazines, everything is like, so you really have to empty your mailbox on a regular basis, which is new. I mean, not new, but like very different from what I had in Vietnam. And I mean, there are apps for things. Obviously, we do have online banking and, like cashless payment and all these things. I think it depends on the person. You can definitely get into it, but I know many people, like some friends included, they just don't want to. They feel like, oh, I want to do it. I need it on paper as proof. I need to put it in a folder, and I need to, I don't know what. But it's really more paper, and also taxes and all these kind of things. So you get a letter for everything. Yeah, that's true.
So tell me, what is life like back in Switzerland compared to Vietnam?
Very slow. It's very calm. It's not. I remember when I lived in Saigon, so almost every night we would do something. There's an activity, from Monday to Friday. You go out for dinner, for drinks, late at night, happy hour and whatnot. You go for street food. Like you meet you have a big group of friends, and everyone is like up to, doing something. And maybe it's because the friends that I had were also not, first of all, not locals. I had local friends, but it's like very different with local friends and very different with like friends like I am, like VQs and expats.
It got described once to me that Saigon was like a big college town for expats and travelers. And I was like, that is 100% accurate.
Yes. So I think people there were more open to do things because I don't know how to describe it, but like the friends that I knew there are people that I have. I mean, that's it. So we have to kind of, we don't have our parents there. We cannot go visit them. It's like a very different dynamic. And now it's more like you enjoy your silence. You go to work, you work until 6 p.m. And then it's like, oh, let's go for after work, maybe not. And also you have to schedule everything. I mean, I have schedules for like 3 weeks ahead with a friend for a dinner, like everyone is just so busy, even though it's such a slow life. Everyone's quite busy. Surprisingly, and but I enjoy it because it's much more structured.
Good, nice, good to hear. Well, Nhi, it has been amazing catching up with you. It was so nice when you were here in Saigon. Before we finish, I just want to hear, what do you miss the most about Saigon and Vietnam?
I miss the food the most, and then I miss I don't know how to really say it, but the lifestyle of being so kind of carefree, and being just active and open to new things.
Awesome. Well, I hope you come back soon. When you do, you'll see how much has changed and how much is still the same as well. And we'll definitely get some street food, and we'll go to happy hour, and we'll go to one of those hidden cocktail bars as well.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nhi.
Thank you.
So join our Patreon so we can start an amazing community of people who are passionate about Vietnam as well. And don't forget, rate, review, subscribe, all of that stuff, and turn on the notifications. And if you did enjoy this episode, please share it with someone else. It really helps. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of a Vietnam podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Niall Mackay. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're like me, you may use your laptop at places where you have to use public Wi-Fi. This opens you up to digital snoopers. It's a massive problem. It can be your internet service provider, or you know who, looking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal trying to steal your bank passwords or credit card info, or even a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. These days, it is vital that you keep your data safe. NordVPN keeps all of these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites that are phishing for your data, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. And it's easy to use, even I could use it. I've actually been using NordVPN for years now here in Vietnam, and I'm excited to be an affiliate partner with them. I've used NordVPN to watch Netflix, BBC, Disney Plus with ease, and I also know that my information and data are safe from prying eyes, whoever they may be. Join now and you'll get 68% off and 3 months free when you go to my link, nordvpn.com/SMB. Just again, for those hard of hearing, nordvpn.com/SMB. The link is also in the show notes. I know nobody checks them out, but go check that out and you can get the link from wherever you're listening to this podcast. As an affiliate partner, it also means that I will get a small commission when you sign up, but at no extra cost to you. So not only will you be getting a great deal through 7 Million Bikes, you get a great VPN and you'll be supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast. Stay safe online and enjoy the shows you love. Any questions, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And thanks for listening to this show. Cheers.